I think everybody goes through, whether you're in business, whether you're in government, there are certain issues that you all deal with. Of course, budget, personnel, if you have a product or a service, how do you deliver that, the best product, the best service? How do you keep your customers happy? And so that's a challenge for everybody. I thought the council, worked very hard to try to be able to balance the interests of those constituents in that ward, as well as the interest of the business who is attempting to get annexed. And we came up with 3 criteria that we thought was that balance. Our concern was that we didn't put a lot of cars back on Route 33. We wanted to make sure that they got on Marlboro Avenue. There's going to be a traffic light on Marlboro Avenue at Waterside Village, and right across, across the street from Easton Village. And so we wanted to make sure that that issue was taken care of. Unfortunately, they weren't able to negotiate that at this time. But they also had said that they were not looking at doing any development for 5 years. Yeah. So that doesn't preclude them from being able maybe to negotiate in the future with the folks at Waterside Village for the access. And if they can do that, then they can come back again and visit with us. When that was created, there was a lot of discussion of what was an appropriate location for large retail. And rather than put it out on Highway 50 and take farm fields out on Highway 50, decision was made through the mayor and council in Easton at that time that it would make sense to have that development in the town, adjacent to the town. And that's also kind of when we looked at when Lowe's was looked at, and they wanted to expand, and rather than have them expand out onto the Highway 50, they were included in that. And part of the negotiation with the developer was that they were to find somebody to come in and take over the Lowe's building. And so, there were a lot of behind-the-scene negotiations. There were a lot of parties involved in that. And I think that those decisions were the right decisions. Now, it took quite a few years. So one day it's a farm field, but it is a site that is to be developed. And then eventually when they get a client and they start building, then of course that's new and different for folks. The majority, I know that in talking to the mayor and some town council members when the Harris Teeter project was coming up, that was one of the few times when everybody in the audience got up and said, "I'm for this project," which was very interesting because I've got a 16-year history here, and we know not every project has been welcomed with open arms.
Yeah. No.
So there was a hunger in the community. I think we have a lot of good retail shopping. We are a regional center. Our hospital continues to grow, and as they grow, they're going to bring more people in here. Yeah. And when you and I both know, when you're coming from other communities, and if they don't have the goods and services, you're going to shop us. I think one of the real positive things are we do have an individual who has been buying up a significant amount of real estate in the downtown area, has a vision for what they want to do. They've opened some restaurants, some other properties now. I see that they're working on Goldsboro Street and rehabbing a building that they own. And so, I would suggest to people to just sit back, relax. Let's see how that develops. I feel a lot more confident that we're going to be pretty pleased to see what happens. During the time I've been here, I've seen Main Street turn over many, many times. I've seen stores go in, stores go out. Especially small retail, it's very difficult to bring new owners to come in and buy your business. And that's a real challenge. And so to see somebody make a major investment, and there are some other folks who have had major investments in the downtown area who fixed buildings up, brought some folks in. So I see that as really vibrant. And the Tidewater Inn, what the Tidewater Inn has done to the downtown has been tremendous. And I think the town made the right decisions about swapping parking lots and things like that so that we could accommodate them because they're a hub. The sale of the Avalon Theater, to the Avalon Foundation by the town, I was very supportive of that because I wanted them to be able to control their destiny. And, support them wholeheartedly with the entertainment they bring in. They bring a lot of folks. And then we just have a lot of different groups that Waterfowl Festival, the Maritime Museum, and other groups like that that have major festivals, bring lots of people to town. And then we're seeing a lot of people coming in and bicycling the county. I sit on the Talbot County Tourism Board also. And Cassandra Van Hooser is doing a great job in marketing our region. And, and we're seeing a lot of new tourists. We have Restaurant Week, which is an exciting event, and so we're really gaining national reputation. Geographically, it's a rather diverse ward. You start across Highway 50, you come over to the airport, you go all the way to Goldsboro Street on the north side. It cuts down to Waterside Village.
Kind goes of crescent?
Easton Village, and then it goes into Radcliffe Manor. And so you have different types of residential properties, you have estate properties, you have the airport, you have industrial development, you have retail, both large and small retail, historic district. And so my wife and I get in the car and we'll take a ride, say, okay, let's ride over here and look around. And one of the things the staff knows, if I see people have piled mattresses or furniture, stuff like that, I'll always call and say, hey, has anybody called in for large pickup? So there are times when I see tree branches that are covering stop signs, and I'll call and say, hey, we need to get somebody out there to trim this up. Also, the RTC park is in my district, and I'm working with the folks to create a dog park out there, and Mr. Ford has asked me to be the liaison for that.
Oh, that's great.
So, that's an exciting, I have a dog, I take my dog out there, as does John Ford, who's our council president, and we both are, as well as other members of the council, enthusiastic about getting that project completed. We got the northeastern ball fields that are in my ward. The lights, we all agreed to put lights up there, and Mayor Willie's leadership got that done. We all supported that, so we're excited about that. The fire department, we worked with them. We're in the process, they'll be in the process of getting their new breathing apparatus, also replacement windows, and some other things that are necessary for that department. So it really is, it's very interesting to me. My goal was to get in and then to see what things needed attention. And, the Airbnb or the short-term rental issue came to the forefront. And I brought it before the council. I advocated for certain things, like any other project or legislation in government. There's a give and a take. And we spent a lot of time working on that. We've taken public testimony. We've heard from people. I understand individuals' concerns about all of a sudden I bought a house in a residential neighborhood. Now my neighbor decides that they want to come in and they want to have Airbnb and they want to let, quote unquote, to me, strangers come into the neighborhood. I don't know who they are. So I think as you look at what our final legislative product will be, there's going to be an opportunity in certain zones where you're going to have to come in and you're going to have to get a special exception. There are going to be rules and regulations. You can't have, unless you have a commercial kitchen, you can't be providing food. We want to make sure that you pay the lodging tax. There is some question about whether you would be able to continue to have the homestead exemption, because if you've turned your residential property and designated it for some commercial use, you might not be eligible. I've asked our staff to get me an opinion on that. We want to make sure that you have commercial insurance, so that God forbid a fire happens to your house and your insurance company comes back and says, oh, I'm sorry, you only have residential insurance and you're renting it out, we're not going to pay. And so your neighbors sit there with a piece of property that's half burned down, and there's no way of paying for that. The other issue that really got me was the number of clothing bins that certain organizations have been distributing around our community. I don't begrudge organizations to do that, but I think we need to be able to control that. When I count, one organization has 19 or 20 bins in our community. They're putting them in commercial zones, and our ordinances don't really speak to that. So I brought that up to the council. We looked at model ordinances from around the country, and we passed legislation that took effect the latter part of June that limited them to 8 units, period. The other thing I wanted people to know was that whether or not those were not-for-profit organizations or they were private individuals, and there are some cases where some of the boxes that we see are owned by private individuals, and that's a business. And so, if they're going to be a business, then they need to be licensed and public and cited correctly. That if the county were to make a decision to do something with that statue, to move it or whatever, it would actually have to go through the Town of Easton Historic Commission review. And in fact, when Frederick Douglass Memorial was put up, it had to go through the Town of Easton Historic District review and get approval. And so the county council's decision caused us not to have to deal with that issue.
Street, is that kind of
Port Street, there's a master plan that just received an email on, and there are going to be public hearings on looking at that master plan. I know that there are folks that are interested in having Easton Point brought into the town, annexed into the town, so that they can have water and sewer, so that they can develop some things on the point. We've had discussion, people talk about a restaurant, they talk about other things. And, that's really one of the few places where we have access to water. And so, there are some opportunities to create maybe walking trails and things like that, so that people can kind of get closer to the water. There's also a group that is looking to try to get a water park on part of the land that the town owned that used to be where our shops were at. And so, I met with a group the other day who was looking at biking Talbot County. There's really a number of different individuals, really talented individuals, who are looking at how we do things differently in the community, how we make the community more accessible for bikers, for walkers, for joggers to get in the water. And that's pretty exciting.